What is a mirrorless camera and why are they so popular now? So a mirrorless camera is essentially a camera, usually probably going to be shaped like your typical sort of photography camera, but essentially it doesn't have a mirror in front of the sensor. So what does that mean? On older cameras, DSLR cameras, you have your digital sensor in there and like your little leaf shutter or whatever, like little thing that opens and closes when you take the picture. But then in front of that you have this little mirror that would flip up and down because you had an optical viewfinder, so that mirror would help you to see out the lens optically, not digitally. That's a bit of an older technology. The newer technology right now that's in is the mirrorless camera. So there's no little mirror in there that has to flip up and down. Everything's just digital. So the viewfinder is digital. The sensor obviously is still digital. Like that hasn't changed. DSLR had a digital sensor. Mirrorless camera has a digital sensor. But now the viewfinder is digital as well. So it's like a little screen in the viewfinder instead of this optical mirror-based thing, right? And so with the mirrorless cameras, you're going to get probably, it's not necessarily always a lighter camera body, but in some cases it might be. You're also going to get more lens adaptability because of the flange distance being smaller. The flange distance, as far as I understand, is the distance between the camera sensor, that's what's capturing the image, and the lens mount, you know, where you put the lens on the camera. So with a mirrorless camera, the flange distance is going to be smaller than on a DSLR because there's no mirror in the mirrorless camera. So whereas on the DSLR there's that mirror, adds to the flange distance space because there's the mirror in there. When you're on a mirrorless camera, there's no mirror, so you could have the flange distance closer, as far as I understand about how that works. So more adaptability options for different lenses, or at least it makes it more easy to adapt lenses, because on DSLRs there might still be some ways to adapt certain lenses, but there might be certain drawbacks compared to if you were adapting those same lenses on the mirrorless camera. But I'm just kind of speaking from what little I know about lens adaptability when it comes to DSLR versus mirrorless. Generally, mirrorless cameras is probably going to be a better, easier, or higher quality time with adapting a wider range of lenses, like when we're talking about vintage lenses, like old lenses that are just like the old manual lenses from way back when or whatever. So mirrorless cameras, as far as I understand, are like the main kind of prosumer cameras that are being made right now, where it's not quite a cinema camera, but it's not like a cell phone. But even cell phones are, well, mirrorless camera I think means that you could take the lens off. So yeah, cell phones aren't technically mirrorless cameras if that's how we define it. So mirrorless camera, you got that camera, you could take the lens off and it's just the sensor in there. There's no mirror that's flipping up and down, and that's the main way that the kind of sort of semi-professional photo/video hybrid cameras are made now, is that way. That might be one of the reasons why they're just so popular right now, because that's kind of the current technology for that kind of device, right? The current way of making that sort of camera, or that, yeah. Anyway. And it's probably generally considered pretty good tech in terms of like, there's probably less things to break, in the sense that you don't have to worry about breaking any of the older optical elements that came with the mirror, whether it's like the different mirrors or the mechanism for that, or the glass. I think there might still be a glass lens, maybe, in the digital viewfinders on the mirrorless cameras, but now we're just talking about like whatever that initial lens is and the actual screen in there, as opposed to however many elements there were before for the mirror system and stuff like that. Again, some camera bodies might still be heavy even though they're mirrorless, so the weight factor isn't always guaranteed to be lighter necessarily. It might just depend on the camera manufacturer, right? So these different things to consider. But the mirrorless camera is going to be a good option nowadays. if you want to have more lens adaptability or more ease of lens adaptability. This also depends on the sensor size of the camera. Depending on if you want to adapt certain lenses without having a crop factor, or not a crop factor, but a vignetting, because if you have like a full frame camera but you put an APS-C lens on there, then it's going to vignette where you get the little dark corners and stuff. So anyway, as far as I understand, that's how it's going to go. Yeah, so DSLR's going to be an older camera, probably cheaper than a lot of the modern mirrorless versions, and there's kind of a certain quality and maybe aesthetic that comes with the DSLR. So there is still a degree to which, you know, there's something to like about it in terms of the user experience, but in terms of the features and stuff like that and what they offer in capabilities, the modern mirrorless stuff, especially like the high-end modern mirrorless stuff, is probably going to be some of the best, right? So if you're looking for a new camera, or if you're looking to get a camera, if your budget doesn't matter as much, like if you have a good budget, a good amount of budget to use, you might want to look at some of the more modern mirrorless cameras. If you have a tighter budget, maybe you want to look at some of the older DSLR cameras, because you can maybe get something pretty good for a pretty good price depending on what you want to do. I'll leave that there. If you have questions about cameras, if you want me to help you get kind of set up with, like if you want help kind of getting set up with your camera gear, feel free to join my Skool community and ask questions about cameras, lenses, things like that, what your budget is, what you want to use it for, and I could try to help you out. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.